If you want to select all panelists and attendees, that means that everyone can see it, or just all panelists if you want it just sent to us, or use the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen there. You should be able to see it, so ask a question there. And yeah, feel free to also put in the webinar chat if you've got a business that you've started, or why you're sort of here. If you want to maybe talk about anything like that, feel free to start in the chat. So who wants to, is anyone volunteering to kick us off and talk about themselves?
Ladies first.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Shivika and I am the founder of AVI. It's a digital receipts app and a student budgeting app as well. We have just built an application for the student market in the UK to help them track their expenses and to understand where they're spending more, and also to use the paper receipts in order to digitize them. How we do it is by taking pictures of those receipts, or you can track them from your gallery or take an image from your Gmail and then save all your receipts in one place. We recently launched in the first week of September and got really positive and decent response to begin with. It took me a really long time to come to this stage due to various reasons and a lot of highs and lows, but we're here and I'm really happy about it. It's kind of a testing phase at the moment, but we're soon to put out the proper product out, probably by the month of January. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Sarah, for organizing this. It's just great to be sharing what I've done during my uni, and it's been 2 years now. So I'm glad and excited to share and help others who are on the same path as me.
Fabulous, thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next, if that's okay.
Okay.
Again, thanks for having me on board. My name is Iheanyi Ibe. My background is really startup and supporting sort of youngsters, undergraduates and recent graduates and some alumni in terms of startup support and developing their own small businesses. That's been my background for quite a while now, and I've done this across, I think, 3 universities and counting at the moment. So I'm hoping today I'll be able to sort of provide some insight from a provider point of view, I guess. Thank you.
Fabulous. Dan or Nicholas, who wants to go next?
I'll go next, that's okay. So thank you for the invitation. My name is Nicholas. I'm the founder of OpenMic Limited. So at the moment, I'm creating a professional networking platform for individuals in the music industry. So how it works is we aim to connect music artists with promoters, managers, record labels, and producers. So kind of like the LinkedIn version, but for the music industry. It's myself and 2 of my friends who started this up. We started it last year, 2019, when I was, actually happened during my, when I was studying. So during my 2nd year of studies. I've now graduated, but I'm pursuing a master's in investment management. So at the moment, we're near the end of actually completing our app. So hopefully it'll be out soon.
Nice. All right, should I jump in? So I'm Dan, founder of a company called Bohemi. And we're sort of looking to change the way drinks brands sort of promote their products in the places which sell them, bars, pubs, restaurants, sort of typical outlets where, drinks brands have very little control. And yeah, this all kind of started from uni, I guess. I was in maybe like 3rd year uni and sort of launched an app. And then sort of 2 years later, I graduated, and then student loans stopped coming in, so you've got to raise money. I've sort of been through all of that, and here we are like 4 years later.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, guys. So we've got a couple of questions. If I just sort of ask, and if people want to sort of start jumping in and everyone gets a turn speaking. So I've got a question here from somebody who wants to know, Is there any trick to sort of prioritizing when you end up sort of obviously first kind of couple of years of business obviously takes a lot of attention, but when you're also trying to do a degree or whatever at the same time, how do you balance your priorities with making sure you do finish your education and also, you know, making your business successful? So any tips for that?
Go ahead then.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of prioritizing, my personal opinion is that, you know, and this is something which I would sort of, again, if I was to go through university again and go through starting a business again, is university is a very sort of special time. It's, you know, 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, where you have like loads of freedom, you living with your best friends, maybe, you know, us 5 guys in a house together, the same 5 guys for 5 years while we did literally an integrated master's degree. So, you know, life is, you know, you know, it's not necessarily something which I would say you should ever prioritize starting a business when you're at university. I think if you can find a time to, do it. But I think the priority with university should be enjoying every single minute that you can possibly enjoy, because you're never going to have that again. And then you're going to get to 24, 25 years old, and all of your friends are getting engaged and getting married, and everybody's all busy with their work. And that's when you're going to have a lot more time to really sort of allocate to it. But my advice is, if you're at university, enjoy university, enjoy it to the fullest extent, because you will never have that opportunity ever again.
Brilliant. Anyone else want to jump in? Nicholas?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I have to agree with Dan there as well. I'd say, I think prioritizing and finding the right balance goes hand in hand, but also enjoying your university experience. Because as I graduated now and I'm now doing a master's, it's going to be increased workload, but at the same time, we've got a business. I have a part-time job as well, so there's a lot of things I have to find, I think, time for. But I think it's being efficient with the time you have. So you're not going to be 24/7 running your business. It's not going to be, say, you're not going to be at it constantly for 8 hours a day. Your business won't, especially a startup, it won't be like that, from my experience anyways. So, because I'll work in the morning and then I'll maybe go to lectures in the afternoon and then work on my business in the late afternoon or in the evening and then have downtime. So I guess it's finding the right balance, but not worth like doing an overload, because you'll just tire yourself out. And especially as Dan said, you have to enjoy the university. I guess you only experience it once. You never get to experience it again. But I think if you find that right balance and get a routine in, you will be successful and your business will go far.
Fabulous. Shivika, do you want to say?
Yeah, I feel in order to prioritize your startup venture, or say in case you have an idea during university, it really depends what situation you're in. So for instance, I was doing my master's from Warwick University in international relations. So at that point in time, I did not have 3 or 4 years. I only had 1 year with me to really test it out and to really understand if I want to, pursue this idea or not. So I feel the very point about prioritizing can be managed if you can balance out your studies really well. And for that, it's very important that you have the right kind of focus towards what you want to do and dividing your time in the right manner. So say, for instance, I had my classes Mondays and Tuesdays, so I had the rest of the week with me to maybe focus on other things, probably say customer research, or even reading about my industry, or just talking to other people about my idea. So it's very important that you allot your time in a very, very conscious manner and try and stick by it. It's not always possible. It's university. You've got to have fun, like the others mentioned. But try and stick to a routine which will help you get there slow and steady.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good question, because there's a misconception out there that students have time and not busy. It's just rubbish. A lot of students at university, I mean, it might look like they're having fun, but they're very busy people, and there's a lot of attention. Their attention is wanted by a lot of people. If you think back to when you were in uni, for instance, every other day you're getting emails to do this or promotions to do that, to get involved with this. It takes up their time. And sometimes when you say students or university student or undergraduate, you tend to paint a certain picture, and you forget there'll be mature students there. There'll be students with children there. You know, they're also, and these are really busy people. And we take it for granted sometimes. And I see this all the time. And I think it's a little bit of planning. You're right. If you've come to university, we're hoping that you've come there because you want to get a certain experience, you want to get a certain degree, you want to learn something and develop yourself before you come out of it. So I think it's about mindset and a little bit of good planning, really. So if you go in thinking, well, actually, I'm going to try and do this while I study, you can prepare yourself for that and plan towards it. And again, realistic planning. So for instance, if you're a student and you're studying, you think, right, I'm interested in this startup. If you have a good advisor, they can balance those things for you. They can help you prioritize those things. Because there's no point going into your final year and thinking, I'm going to just spend time for the next 4 months developing this startup. So having a plan, thinking this is how much time I'm going to dedicate to this. Realistically, I wouldn't have the time to take this from A to Z, for instance. But how about if I dedicate some time and build it from A to, say, L, for instance, and spend some time developing that, so that by the time you're ready to leave uni, for instance, if you haven't got the time, you're not starting out fresh. You can then jump back on that stuff you were doing within your startup and get it going. And I think the good thing for students these days, when I went to uni, we did not have startup, we don't have enterprise support. We just didn't have that, but most universities have that now. And if they're selling this to you, that's because they also understand you're there to study, and that's an extracurricular thing. So I think they will take that into consideration, the way they provide the service. So a lot of the services we run, for instance, we take that into consideration. We think, what's the best day to do this? When are students a little bit less busier? When do they have time to do, what they have to do? So a lot of what I do, even before COVID, have been online based. The whole idea is to give the students time to do things when it's comfortable for them. I don't want them spending years doing it, but I want them to get on it when they can, and then step away from it when they want to. So it's not overbearing. So I think just conditioning your mind a little bit, as that's what you want to do with your studies, and then planning, appropriately is quite useful. So you can prioritize things. You can say, well, actually, I've got 3 months to give to this startup, for instance. How far can I go with that? What can I put in place to make sure that at least it's progressing while I'm doing other things that are more important to me? You get clients all the time, sometimes they cancel all sorts of meetings, but when you speak to them, you realize actually there's so much happening outside of university that's taking up their time. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Priority-wise, decide what you need to do, dedicate some time to it and do it. It doesn't have to be all your time, just that portion of time, and build things slowly. It doesn't have to happen overnight.
Brilliant. Some really great answers there. We've had another question. You sort of mentioned it, some of the enterprise support that's now sort of available with unis. So what are your kind of experiences with them? Are they worth kind of going to and getting, or is there better support outside of like a sort of university structure for students? Anyone want to?
Well, I got to know about the enterprise but just right before I was finishing my uni, and I had submitted my dissertation. It was only after that I applied for my idea, and I was endorsed by Warwick for graduate entrepreneur from Warwick University. So as far as the question is concerned, that whether the enterprise is supportive, I would say 100%. Do reach out to them. The enterprise in your university is right there to help you out, to build your venture. And if you are not from the very country, it helps you to stay back and build your idea and do things that you haven't even imagined. And then not just the enterprise has other different departments in it, which is the incubator or the entrepreneur society and many other different societies which will help you hone your skills and meet other people who are like-minded. I would say 100% do reach out to the enterprise if you want to join, even if you don't want to join, but they will help you and guide you in ways that we as entrepreneurs at the very early stage don't know things. So they will help you, guide you, shape your idea, and even in terms of the venture, they will help you in ways that you cannot imagine. So definitely go reach out to them. They are a must.
Brilliant. Anyone else got experience with their uni enterprise?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, my experience is obviously with Bath Uni, and I guess everybody has different universities and different experiences with it. I guess also I've sort of been doing this for about 4 years, and 2 of those years were at uni and 2 of those years were out of uni. I think basically startups it's a lifelong commitment. It's not anything which you can reduce down to 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's becoming a startup founder is a lifelong process of growth, and it's got practically nothing to do with the idea. In terms of, I would say the value of an idea is a rounding error of 0, practically 0 value. And the reason why I say that, and this sort of relates to a lot of what sort of I've learned from doing startups, and from reading books like The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is probably one of the most famous books in the startup ecosystem, is you're just sort of like, you start off with a very basic concept, and then your idea, your job as a founder is to just explore that concept as thoroughly as you can possibly explore it. And you should never commit to any particular idea or any particular concept, because of the way that validated learning should be able to push you in directions of various different pivots. So I think the whole process around sort of becoming a startup founder is so vast and so long, it's an entire lifetime that you commit to this, that I think basically part of the university ecosystems want to sort of put a lot of value on a business plan, or could you write an essay on why this idea has some kind of value in the market. And it's only really through understanding how to prototype and how to build and engineer solutions which can create a set of validated learning principles that you can really do anything, So it's something where I think it's universities put too much focus on an idea. They put too much focus on a business plan. They put too much focus on, what can we give people in 2 to 3 years' time to potentially even give them a false sense of an opportunity. And the problem is that a lot of people with a false sense of opportunity go out and raise money. And then they go out and raise money, and then it puts a whole load of commitment onto a false sense of opportunity, which then effectively leads to bigger issues in the ecosystem. So that's just my sort of personal opinions on my experiences. And, I've found being part of stuff like the Entrepreneurs Collective, the Founders Network, the Pluralist Club, Odin, various different founders communities in London and sort of across the UK, is you learn so much more, like over, just really sort of expanding your network and really sort of, looking outside of what a university will offer you. The resources out there are incredible. And, I think it's just a case of getting out there and exploring it all.
Excellent. Anyone else want to jump in and say anything, or should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I can add something, at least from a provider point of view. Dan's made me so happy with some of the things he said. I can't remember the last time, even in the last 3 years, where I've asked anybody in an early stage to write a business plan. Never been a fan, and that's not going to change. But I think what's really important is the learning. I don't often dwell on the idea because I think 7 out of probably 10 times when we work with people, the idea they showed up with is never the idea they live with. That's just life. So what we try and focus on is all those learning that Dan talked about, for instance, from outside provision, being in a network, being able to communicate with people and things like that. Those are often skills that early stage businesses don't have. So it's sort of like, it's an awful thing to say. It's like when you try and feed little kids and sneak in vegetables in their food. So while we're talking about your idea, what we're trying to do is to help you pick up those other things that you need. And I always think, I like to look at it from a pragmatic point of view. There's a lot of resources within universities and they're often free to students. You've absolutely got nothing to lose by having a go. Now, sometimes a lot of students will go through that journey and come up with something at the end of it and have a startup. That's great. There's nothing like the real experience of actually doing the stuff, whether it's prototyping or critiquing what you've done or put it together, and that kind of stuff. And that's what makes the difference, really. But sometimes some of those resources are quite expensive outside of the university environment. I mean, there's a lot out there, and I know some of them are readily available for free. There's a lot of mentors out there wanting to help you for no return at all. But I think going through that process sort of gets you ready for the bigger world when you go out there. It's just getting you prepared, making you a little bit resilient, understanding that some days you will show up with something, and at the end of the day, you find out actually what you were thinking wasn't going to pan out. When you've looked at it critically, or when you've gone through the whole length, and when you test traded. I'm a big fan of people test trading. Just go out there and try out stuff and speak to people and get some real feedback and some disappointment as well. So one of the banner I use is encouraging students to come in and fail with us so they can succeed when they get out there. Because I think that environment provides some kind of, I have to bear this in my mind, some kind of safety net. When you're still at uni, do it then. If you have to fail then. Get the learning from them. So that when you then go outside, we're actually trying to, I don't want to say do the real thing, but sort of expand on what you've learned already. It becomes useful. You're not starting from scratch. You built up some skills, you picked up some knowledge. You can talk about, I've seen fantastic students. There's a client I used to work with. In fact, I was talking about him to somebody else today. Millions and millions of pounds on investment. But I remember at the very beginning, he could not communicate what he was trying to actually do to both venture capitalists and everybody else. Just couldn't do it. Technically, he was aware, he was fantastic, product was great. But we take for granted those little soft skills that then help you translate that thing from just a thought on paper to something more realistic about that. So to keep this short, I think if the service is there and it's a good service, use it. You've got nothing to lose. Get the learning from that so that you're not starting from scratch when you then sort of leave university to grow things.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was fantastic. And we've got just another question. What do you think are the biggest pitfalls that a lot of students make when they start out businesses at university? Or even what were the biggest pitfalls and mistakes that you guys made when you were starting your businesses that you wish someone had told you to look out for? I know some have been touched on already, but yeah, what do you?
Personally, I think managing expectation, and I think sometimes people don't realize the commitment that's required to put together a startup, both at the beginning, during, and after it's ready to go. And it's a lot of work, and I think sometimes people don't appreciate this. A lot of times you go to sort of listen to motivational speakers or people who've done it in the past, and I always get frustrated when they don't paint. It's not that they're not painting the realistic picture, but they're not showing the difficulty in it. They talk about the success all the time. They sort of navigate some of the issues they really had, because a lot of them go through really difficult times, juggling all kinds of things in their lives, just trying to get it work. And I think sometimes we glorify startups and think anybody can just get up and just do it. There's a potential for people to do it, but realistically, it's quite tough. It's tough to do it. It's a full-time commitment to do that, because there's so much at risk. There's investment at risk, there's your time at risk, there's your livelihood at risk sometimes if that's all you're doing. So sometimes people just need to really realize, actually, if you're going to go into this, you better make sure you're really interested. Something you really want to do, you love it, or there's something else motivating you to do it. If not, the bad days are really going to be bad days.
Excellent. Nicholas, did you look like you
Yeah.
wanted to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was gonna say just similar to what he said. With I think a lot of students like assuming that everyone would like their products or service, whether they're providing. So a good example I use, like Mark Zuckerberg. Lots of people think, oh, Mark Zuckerberg, and he left university, I'll get rich quick. It can't be that hard. But I think as he said, there's a lot of background work with it, a lot of dedication, commitment that needs to go into it from the very beginning to the very end and in between as well. But I think not doing, your research properly before actually putting your products out on the market is a huge pitfall that can incur. I think I came across that as well when I first thought of the idea. Obviously, I spoke to my friends about it and they said, yeah, I really like that idea, but your friends will say that to you because it's a business idea, it's new. Even though I knew the business had potential, I thought to myself, no, I need to get people who I don't know to see what they think of it. And that's when I think I've done further research, when I just went on different websites where you just get strangers who will be able to comment on your idea or comment on your prototype. And it was good feedback and some constructive feedback, which was useful for the company and my business as well. Also for my confidence, it's good when you get good feedback from people you don't know, because they're going to be the most honest. Some will obviously be a bit harsh, but I think it's good. I think it's good for character building as well. I think assuming that people just like your products and that it will sell and you'll make sales as soon as you put it out is one pitfall that I think students and people starting to start need to be wary of. I think doing your research, intensive research as well, will be very useful to how successful your products or business will be.
Brilliant. Yeah, either anyone else want to jump in with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of biggest pitfall is, people rush it. People just sort of jump into stuff and people just sort of assume they have a business. I mean, this is the wonderful thing about startups, is that, 10 years ago, if you said, hey, I've got this idea and I need, 100 grand to get, some developers somewhere in the world to build it, call you crazy. It's like, what the hell are you on about? But now that's like normal. And it's my thing. I think one of the biggest pitfalls is people rush it. People just sort of are very quick to assume that they have something. They're very quick to assume that there's a real opportunity. They're very quick to assume that they deserve investment and they should raise money because there is so much capital there. And I think, one of the best things you can do is, because this is literally a lifelong commitment, is just take your time and just understand the person you would need to be to actually disrupt a market, properly disrupt a market. Like, who is the person that you think everyone in this industry is going to look up to and go, wow, I'm scared that this person's going to put everyone else in the industry out of business. A bit like everyone's looking at Elon Musk and everyone's looking at Jeff Bezos and everyone's looking at Mark Zuckerberg. They're looking at these people and they're going, I'm terrified. I'm terrified about what they have, sort of in their back pocket to sort of release, and the innovations coming out of these businesses. And your goal should be to sort of grow into that person in the desired industry that you want to be in, that can make a significant change. And I think, it's a case of, if you have an idea and you take your time with it, you can think, okay, what needs to happen for me to explore this idea? Do I need to be able to build technology? Do I need to be able to market it? Do I need to be able to sell it? Do I need to be able to run it operationally? And over time, because again, you're taking your time, you're not rushing anything. Over time, it's like, okay, great, I need to build something. I need to build an app maybe. Okay, I'm going to go online, I'm going to do a JavaScript course. I'm going to learn how to do Node.js in the back end, maybe React on the front end, and I'm going to start to build something. And then great, that's me just exploring it. I'm the founder of a business. That's me just exploring something. And I haven't taken anybody's money. Maybe I've got a full-time job. you know, if I've got a full-time job and I haven't taken anybody's money, what's the rush? You know, I'm exploring this. I've built something, I'm prototyping it. Maybe I've put £20 from my salary onto sort of AdWords or paid social to sort of put it in front of people, and then start to record how people actually interact with some kind of basic prototype. And I'm learning, and I'm along the way, and that could take 5 years, that could take 10 years. What's the rush? You have a full-time job. So, you know, I think it is something where, you know, everybody just sort of just rushes into stuff, and it's more about the person. Like, you need to just decide who you want to be. You know, if I'm going to take on, you know, the electric car market, for example, I want to build a self-driving car, I'm going to learn everything I can possibly learn about computer vision, TensorFlow, you know, I'm going to learn about sort of OpenCV, and I'm going to sort of really sort of learn and research and read and build stuff, and, you know, do a Python course, and then sort of have stuff which I've built that I can put in front of people, and that's stuff that I own, and I'm growing myself into a person who's potentially going to disrupt an industry, instead of being like, I've got this idea, I need £100,000 to outsource it to India. You know, for me, that's not business. That's not it. That's not business. Like, it's about, you know, startups most of the time are going to fail, and, you know, I would say you shouldn't even call it a startup until you've explored it, until you've decided who you need to be, have the best chance of success with a particular business in a particular industry. You pour as much learning as possible into growing into that person.
Brilliant. And Shivika, do you want to finish?
Yes. Well, some amazing points mentioned by Dan, and I could really connect to those. And this is coming from personal experience, and I would love if students who are just starting out understand this early on, that just starting a startup does not mean you have become the entrepreneur you are imagining yourself to be. So I made this mistake early on, that when I moved back to the UK to start my own venture, I was like, I'm going to invest all my time to start this thing, always be reading about it, and always be researching about fintech and how to develop an app and whatnot, and did not do anything other than that. And 6 months down the line, I realized I haven't learned anything, because the app was being developed by the developers. All I did was probably reading. And that's the point where I felt that, oh, I don't know, I haven't learned much, and I have been calling myself an entrepreneur all this while. And it was only in the second year that I realized that I need to be a moonlighting entrepreneur. Now, what that is you continue to do what you're doing on the side. So I started off a part-time job, and then still was able to focus my time on the startup. So I worked 9 till 3 in a restaurant, and then after that I focused on my startup, because my startup probably didn't need that much of my time at that point, because there was building going on and I needed to test things out. And it was only during my part-time job that I realized that I could make a sale, which I never knew about myself. I thought I could never be able to sell. But then when people started recognizing the fact that, wow, you're good at it, you should be more at the counter. And I was like, really? Do I make good sales? And they were like, yeah. So I understood about me, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I was sitting inside the four walls of my room thinking that, yeah, I'm building a startup. There's a startup. Just registering a company or getting that tag of an entrepreneur is not how it works. You really, really need to work for it. And until you are there, when you feel that the startup really needs 24/7 of yours, you can manage other things. Maybe learn a new skill, maybe do a part-time. I did a part-time for the flexibility of the job. If you think you can manage a full-time, do that. But don't leave your work thinking you're building a startup, because 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the line, that empty bank account won't look nice on you. So probably just balance things out early on, and be careful that calling yourself a startup entrepreneur isn't fancy, because it only looks nice in the beginning, but if you don't show results, it's basically nothing. So yeah.
Brilliant. So I've not got any more questions, but it'd be good. Carolina asked all of you guys for sort of your top tips. And I thought it'd be good to sort of just round this off with, if everyone just wants to share their top tips. We'll be sending it out to everyone who signed up for the webinar anyway, and we'll be sort of putting it along with the video. But yeah, who wants to start off and share their sort of final roundup top tips for starting a student business? Don't all rush at once.
Yeah, I'll go first. I don't mind. I think my first one was love what you do. So make sure you have a passion kind of for the industry you're going into. With my one, obviously, it's networking in music. I love music. I'm quite versatile with the genres of music I choose. I don't really discriminate. I've got friends who are in the music industry. Some are artists, some are promoters, and some are music managers. But most importantly for me, I obviously saw a gap in the industry where I thought my business could be of assistance. So I just took the opportunity and linked up with some of my friends and said, let's go with this idea. And then from there, went well. But I would say, yeah, love what you do. Make sure, as I said, make sure you have a passion for it. Otherwise, your drive will just burn out. You'll just get tired after a while. You'll think, why am I doing this? But yeah. Number 2, stay disciplined. Saying, as we've talked about, make sure you prioritize your business. Also, as we said, also enjoy your university experience, but make sure you're not having too much fun at the same time. Make sure you're putting enough time into your business where it will be successful, where you can leave it after a while and then go back to it at a good state where you left it. Also, find your balance. As we said again, make sure you have, to repeat myself, make sure you have good university experience, but also remember your companies and your personal objectives in life as well, and where you want to take your business, where you want to end up, if that's your studies, where you want to go in life. So just find the right balance. Build your network as well. I've always said, even to my friends who aren't doing a business, but to anyone doing a startup, university is the best place to find like-minded people who think like you, who are in the same industry as you, and who'll be able to help you as well. You never know, you could talk to a random person and they could just take interest in your business. Like, yeah, my dad does this, my mom does this, she could help you with this. You never know who knows who. So university, I know some people may be shy, but trust me, you won't regret it. So make sure you're talking to people. Just also, it'll help build your confidence as well. Also, number 5, as I said, have fun as well. Enjoy the experience of running a startup. Of course, you'll have challenges. You'll face a lot of challenges and complications, but you started your business obviously you had a passion for it. So enjoy every step of it. It is building blocks. You will face pitfalls as well. And you may fall down sometimes, but you always be able to get back up. You always learn. I always say from my failures, it's made myself stronger and the company stronger, because we've looked at stuff in a different perspective. But enjoy the experience, have fun with your startup. It is a good journey. I'm enjoying my journey so far. So yeah, I would say the same. So build your confidence as the enterprise thing by just attending business, networking events, if that's at a university, if they're hosting one, or even local ones, get in contact with just local networking events. It is interesting meeting other people. Some may be older, some may be younger. When I ever go, I'm usually one of the youngest, but I enjoy it because they have more experience than me, and I just learn from them. I feed off them, their energy, what they're doing. I sometimes listen to the mistakes they've made, and it's made me compare it to my company. Maybe I can learn from them. Maybe I can use it as an advantage. Also, work hard. Make sure you work hard. That's obviously essential. Most people say that's common sense, but some people may just become lazy after a while. They have the drive, certain urge for a startup. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then maybe 2 months, even a month down the line, you're like, it's a bit tiring. It's more hard work than I expected. As we said, be committed and dedicated. So just just keep working hard at it, because you never know. I always say you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching your business idea. So just keep working at it. Also, be careful. I would say this is a mistake I've learned from personal experience in terms of signing contracts or agreeing on terms and conditions with certain, if it's a supplier, if it's a contractor. Make sure, if you don't understand the fine print, make sure you get a friend or family or someone close or someone you can trust to read through it with you, so you don't sign yourself into a trap hole where you can't get out of, and it could incur cost, which could be quite expensive. So just be careful, because there can be some tricky people out there. Also, I'll say market effectively. So as a startup, you may have a very small budget as a student as well, because obviously as a student, you're still paying for rent and other stuff as books and studies. But I say marketing is really good for startups, especially depending on the market you're going into. But nowadays, social media is I think probably the biggest tool out there for any business, if it's used effectively, especially for young people, if that's the market you're going into. I'd say if you market well, you'll be able to, it'll be able to help build traction for your startup, because also people, I think 90%, maybe probably more, have an iPhone or electronic device that they can use to see ads and stuff like that. Also, I would say my last point is remain humble. You may come across very fantastic moments where you're thinking, yeah, I'm the best entrepreneur, this is my breakthrough, I've finally done it. I'm going to be like Mark Zuckerberg, wherever, I'm going to make millions now. I'll say always remain humble, because you never know what can happen, and you never know what pitfalls are coming your way or complications. Just keep doing what you're doing, because obviously it's working for you and you're doing well at it, but just don't get overconfident or over arrogant. I'll just say just keep working hard and just keep doing what you're doing. So yeah, those are my top 10 tips.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Who wants to share theirs next?
I'll go next.
Brilliant.
Well, I'll mention the 3 out of the 10 that I had sent across. The first one being get out. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. So I did my undergrad in political science, did my master's in international relations. Now I am the starter founder of a fintech app. So it's completely something that I had never studied. Business is something I've never studied. Finance is something I wasn't ever interested in. And then forget about tech. So don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. It doesn't matter what degree you are studying. It doesn't matter where you have been previously in your life. If you do have an idea, if you feel you can do it, if you feel you are surrounded by the right kind of people and you can gather the kind of resource that you need, please go for it. Don't be afraid about it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you did math honors but want to start a skincare brand, go for it. So uni is the time where you can create a new you. This is the time where you can establish a new personality for yourself and do things that you've never done, getting out of your comfort zone. So don't be afraid and just go for it. It does not matter where you're coming from. What matters is where you want to get and how bad you want to get there. And then secondly, I would like to mention that people invest in people. So whilst you're building a product, don't forget to build yourself. Don't forget to hone your skills. Don't forget to learn new skills. Things are changing so rapidly. Every other day, there's a new update. Every other day, there's some new change. It's very, very important for you to keep yourself updated. It's important for you to be a confident speaker. And if that is something that doesn't come to you naturally, practice it. And don't sit inside the 4 walls and think that you've become an entrepreneur and things are just sorted now. No, it does not work like that. Whilst you're building a product, whilst there's a developer working on your product, or you're building that service yourself, just work on yourself as well. Don't forget that part of the business. And then the third thing that I'd like to mention, the last one, would be agile. As students, we have a very, very restricted budget, but we have infinite scope. And that makes us do a lot of different things. We want to experiment a lot. We want to build bigger products, and we want to do things at a bigger scale. All I want to say is that when you start off small. I mean, do minimal investments. If you have an app, for instance, what I did was, when I did want to build an app, what I did was started drawing sketches, talk to people about it, discuss the idea with more people. Don't be afraid to share your idea. So talk about the idea to other people, talk to some mentors who have been in that industry. If not, have they been facing that pain point? And only then go out to build, say, a minimum viable product. But right at the beginning, don't go out and build that entire big product which the market does not need end of day. So be agile, go out, test your product, come back, make the changes, go back again, keep doing that, and you'll finally get somewhere. So these are the three things I'd like to mention.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I think, a really important one that I don't think anyone ever touches on is, as a founder, you don't have a right to ever sort of stay in your business. You have to, as a founder, earn the right continuously. Like, you are working for the startup as a founder. You're not sort of like this untouchable person who can effectively just become a bottleneck effectively. Like, you have to continuously earn the right to still be in your startup. And I think by having that attitude is you recognize that instead of sort of just quickly diving into, oh, I've got a great idea, I'm going to raise £100,000, I'm going to hire a good developer, I've got a good marketer, and I've got a good sales guy. I don't understand what the hell's going on in any of it. What's my role? Why am I needed? I've got great engineers, I've got great marketers, I've got great salespeople. I can't just assume that I have the right to work in my startup just because I had an idea and raised some money 6 months ago. So you have to always earn the right. You have to make sure that, and this comes back to the continuous learning. This comes back to the sort of really becoming the person who should lead the startup. Is you should always have the attitude that there's probably someone better out there to run the business for you, and that should terrify you. It should terrify you to the extent whereby you are working every day, you're learning every day, you're networking, you're reading, you're studying, you're working on the latest technologies to stay ahead of the curve, because you don't want to wake up in 6 months' time and realize that someone else could run your startup better than you, because it would be selfish of you to just sit there at the top of it being like, that's all right, I'm going to stay in charge. So like, I think, I think that kind of ties into, if somebody told me right now that they were going to start a technology business, I would say the first thing you should do is go and just learn JavaScript. Like, literally, just go learn JavaScript. Right now, with JavaScript, you can do front end, you can do back end, you can pretty easily deploy stuff to AWS. You can have a very good understanding as to how every part of your product works. So even if you're not the engineer, you hire an engineer, you thoroughly understand exactly how every part of your product works. It's the same when you go into marketing. You might not be a paid social specialist, but do you at least understand the channels? Like, do you at least understand how everything works? Do you at least have a very good understanding as to why those are the channels for you and the experiments you've done on those channels to prove that there's a suitable ROI on those versus the other ones? So like, this is all just stuff which ties into that sort of like lifelong just learning and sort of building yourself into the best person to run that business, because you should be terrified that you can become redundant. You should be able to become redundant, and you should be able to put your hand up and say, you know what, I'm not the best person to run this anymore, and I've effectively outgrown my own business. Oh, well, my business has effectively outgrown me. So yeah, I think that's kind of it really. And I guess maybe another sort of really big point is actually you have to be very self-aware as to the type of business which you're trying to grow. And you either have an agency where you very sort of low risk, basically people pay you to do work, they pay you for the hours, they pay you for the days, you deliver something and that's it. Or you're a scalable technology platform where people don't pay you for the work that went into it, but the idea is you can scale up the number of customers to sort of create a viable business out of it. Or you just have a little lifestyle business. Maybe you just on the weekend you coded something very quickly, hooked it up to a Stripe account, and maybe you make £100 a week off it with no running costs. Like, everybody often just assumes that their business is scalable, it's a scalable technology platform, when actually that's not always the best option. It's not always, I've got a business and that business needs to be this big scalable technology platform. Like, it can be an agency. You can literally just run an agency. Loads of people do it. Like, loads of people run digital marketing agencies or, creative agencies. Loads of people run lifestyle businesses. Like, loads of people have sort of side hustles where they have sort of very lightweight technology platforms, which maybe make them like £1,000 a month. but it's all okay. But you shouldn't just sort of narrow-mindedly just throw your like blinkers on and just go, we're a scalable tech platform, which is what a lot of people do.
Brilliant. Do you want to finish us off then? And yeah.
Make me sound like an assassin. Do I want to finish you off? No, I don't want to finish you off. And I sent over a document, I think yesterday, covering some of the 10 points. I'm not going to go through all of it again. But thinking about it, they're probably clustered into a little bit of planning, really, because again, students are busy, and if you're trying to do a startup while studying, you're going to need to plan a little bit better. But more importantly, resources. There's resources available to students. Use it. You've got nothing to lose. Use it and then get that learning if you can. So you can start things organically. You can take your time to build it and not rush into it when that happens. But then again, I think the university environment, like in the document I sent out, it's just a bed of expertise. Whether academics or researchers, they're all there. You know, it doesn't matter what sector you want to go to. You can probably find somebody there that you can tap into sort of their knowledge. Get help, and don't feel you need to rush it. Take your time. It's going to take you a long time. Take your time and try and build it organically the best way you can. They're going to be up and downs. They're going to be dark days. They're going to be really happy days. It's just having that resilience. If it's something you really want to do and you're passionate about it and you love it, then need to make those harder days a little bit easier to cope with.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. We'll leave it there. We're recording this, and so we're going to be putting it up on our website, which is oneupcoworking.com. And we'll email everyone, attendees and everyone who's signed up when the video's live, and so you can see it. And you know, if you want to share it from your own platforms, that would be great. Also, if you sign up to our newsletter, you can hear about any of our future events, because we're running these sort of every 2 weeks and things like that. But thank you so much for joining us. You guys have been really, really great.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Hey, everyone.